The room fell silent as the police chief's voice thundered across the training floor. "What part of stay in line don't you understand, officer?" he barked, pointing directly at the lone black woman among the new recruits. Officer Maya Brooks stood frozen, her eyes steady but burning. Her fellow cadets shifted uncomfortably, some avoiding eye contact. Chief Reynolds stepped closer, face reddening. "You think just because you've got a badge now, you're above the rules?" he spat. "You're not special. You're just a charity hire. Don't make me regret signing off on you." Maya didn't flinch. She was used to holding her ground, but this was different. Public shame, deliberate, calculated. Another officer started to speak up, but Reynolds shut him down with a glare. "Let her answer. Let's hear how she plans to lead if she can't even follow basic orders." Maya finally spoke, her voice calm and firm. "Sir, I was following the directive from Captain Hayes." Reynolds' jaw clenched. He wasn't expecting a composed answer. He wanted submission. But what no one knew, not even Reynolds, was who Maya was married to. And in just a few moments, that truth would change everything in the precinct. 3 weeks earlier, Maya Brooks stood before the precinct doors in a crisp uniform, her hair neatly tucked beneath her cap, heart pounding beneath layers of composure. It was her first day as a rookie cop, the only black woman in the incoming class. As she entered, conversations paused. Eyes scanned her from head to toe. She smiled anyway. At roll call, Chief Reynolds barely glanced up when reading her name. "Brooks, Maya," he muttered, then added loud enough for everyone to hear. "Don't think being a diversity checkbox means you're untouchable." A few snickers followed. Maya pretended not to notice. Later, during firearm drills, she outshot most of her peers. During tactical simulations, she kept calm under pressure. But still, whispers followed her. "She's only here because of the new equity policy. Probably can't even handle field duty." She kept her head down, letting her performance speak louder. But behind closed doors, Chief Reynolds was bothered. Her quiet confidence chipped away at his assumptions. And though he'd never admit it, she reminded him of someone from the past. Someone he had failed. Back in the present, he had no idea just how close to home Maya's presence would hit. It was just past 9 a.m. when the precinct doors opened with a slow creak that somehow felt deliberate. The front desk officer looked up, then straightened in his chair. Something about the man who entered shifted the energy in the room. Tall, commanding presence, dressed in a sharp navy blue suit with a polished badge clipped to his belt. Not a local badge, state level, high level. Maya froze mid-sentence while writing her patrol notes. She didn't even have to turn to know who it was. Chief Reynolds stepped out of his office, irritated. "Who's this?" he barked, walking forward. The man didn't blink. He scanned the precinct with quiet authority, then locked eyes with Reynolds. "Chief Reynolds," he said in a measured, steady tone. "I'm Jordan Pierce, special investigator with the State Attorney General's office. I believe you've met my wife." He turned to Maya. "You ready, babe?" Gasps sliced through the room like static. A few officers leaned out of their cubicles. One rookie audibly whispered, "No way!" Reynolds' smirk died instantly. Your wife?" Maya stood and calmly walked over. "Meet my husband," she said, her voice unshaken. "He's been following everything." Jordan stepped closer, handing over an envelope. "We're opening an official inquiry into conduct unbecoming of leadership. Verbal harassment, racial bias, retaliation. We've received audio files from multiple officers." Reynolds turned white. "And if I were you," Jordan added, "I'd stop looking for a way to spin this. The moment you shame my wife, this stopped being personal. It became professional." Silence fell. No one moved. The same precinct that once ignored Maya now stared at her like she was a force to reckon with. Because she was, and now she wasn't alone. By noon, the precinct was in chaos. The once ironclad control Chief Reynolds held over his officers was dissolving like fog in sunlight. Jordan Pierce had set up a temporary office in the conference room, and officers were lining up to speak with him. It started with Officer Martinez, quiet, observant. He nervously closed the door behind him, placed his phone on the table, and hit play. A muffled recording crackled to life. Chief Reynolds ranting about diversity hires and how they'll never be real cops. The room froze. Jordan didn't blink. He pressed stop, labeled the file, and nodded. "Thank you. You did the right thing." Next came Officer Liu, then Officer Green. One after another, they shared emails, text messages, even security footage. Reynolds mocking Maya's performance, intentionally rerouting her to low-priority calls, and at one point, instructing other officers to watch her like she's about to steal the squad car. In the bullpen, whispers turned into full-blown conversations. Officers who had once stood by in silence now looked visibly ashamed. Maya walked through the hallway, no longer invisible, but undeniable, a force they could no longer ignore. Reynolds tried to fight back. "You think you can turn my house against me?" he yelled from his office door. But even his most loyal officers didn't meet his gaze. One quietly removed the chief nameplate from his office door. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the skyline, Jordan walked out with a full case file in hand. Maya followed behind, head high. Before she stepped out, she looked back one last time. That building once tried to break her. Now it was bending in her direction. The system didn't collapse. It simply shifted. And this time, justice was leading the way. The story exploded overnight. News outlets ran headlines like, "Racist police chief investigated after publicly shaming black female recruit," and "State investigator exposes corruption." His wife was the target. Social media ignited with hashtags, "Justice for Maya, not just a wife. Reform now." Maya's name trended nationally within hours. Every network wanted her side of the story, but she didn't rush to speak. Not yet. She let the facts unfold first. The Attorney General's office issued an official statement. A special task force was formed to review hiring practices, misconduct, and leadership abuse in multiple precincts, starting with Reynolds. Meanwhile, Maya received quiet messages from young black women, military veterans, even white officers from other states, thanking her for standing her ground. But not all voices were supportive. Some right-wing pundits spun it as a setup, claiming Jordan used his position to manipulate a narrative. Maya's silence drove them mad until she finally spoke. She stood at the podium during a press conference, flanked by Jordan and two officers who had testified in her defense. "My husband didn't rescue me," she said, voice steady. "He amplified me. I was always enough. You just never saw it." She turned to the cameras. "I didn't want this attention. I wanted a career in service. But if my pain can spark change for another woman coming through those precinct doors, then I'll carry it." The room was quiet, moved. Back at the precinct, a resignation letter was found on Reynolds' now empty desk. The nameplate was gone. Maya returned not as a recruit, but as a liaison to the task force on law enforcement equity. And this time, no one ignored her. She wasn't just a story anymore. She was the change. Months passed. Maya's life had transformed, but not in the way fairy tales promise. It wasn't glitter or glory. It was grit. She still woke before dawn, still tied her boots with quiet focus, still carried the weight of every uniformed woman of color who came before her, and everyone who would come after. Her new office overlooked the city skyline. She wore a different badge now, one forged through fire, not ceremony. As liaison to the state task force on equity, Maya was rewriting policies that had once written her out. On her desk sat two framed photos, one of her younger self, smiling wide in a borrowed police cadet uniform, and another snapped by a journalist, showing her walking out of the precinct beside Jordan. Back straight, eyes forward, justice trailing behind her like a cape. Reforms swept through the department, mandatory bias training, community review panels, transparency measures. But the real shift wasn't just in policy, it was in perception. Young recruits, black, Latina, Asian, no longer whispered Maya's name like a cautionary tale. They said it with pride. Her story was now part of their orientation, not as scandal, but as standard. Reynolds was never heard from again, but his name remained on internal memos, ethics case studies, and training videos, labeled clearly as what leadership should never become. And as Maya stood one morning addressing a new class of recruits, she paused, smiled gently, and said, "You don't earn respect by shouting. You command it by standing still when the whole world tries to move you." A young girl in the front row straightened, and just like that, Maya knew. Her fight wasn't just for her dignity, it was for the legacy, one they'd never erase again. If this story moved you, don't scroll away. Hit that like button to show support for Maya's strength. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. And most importantly, subscribe, because we've got more stories that hit deep, challenge minds, and tell truths others ignore. Behind every quiet home is a story. Some are beautiful, others are buried in the cellar. If you want more haunt in a real story like this, hit like and follow.